All right, we'll try that out. Hopefully that'll kick up there on the right there. It's just a second.
You only have a few more minutes left in me anyway.
This is our third attempt. Hopefully it works. Now, is this live? Or I can't tell if
That
this
was
is
from
live.
before.
Is it? Let's see here. I'll make a hand gesture, and if I see my hand gesture, we'll see. Yeah, it looks like from before, doesn't it? Yeah, because it's got a timestamp that's finished. That's not what we want at all. Yeah. We're doing a new live stream here. Come on. 45 seconds? No.
That's the same one, too.
I know. It says we're live now, one watching. It's going to show us the same 45 seconds. Chat is disabled for this live stream.
Well, good thing the audience isn't paying for this yet.
YouTube Studio. It says we're live now. Love technology. Go to video next. No, I want to go to live stream now. Okay, that says live. That looks good. Do my little hand signal again. We'll see what happens. All right. Take 4, I think it is. This is the Napa
that's
Jordan
from before.
Peterson podcast.
That's from before. I don't remember yawning like that this time.
All right.
Maybe I did. Your
You gotta see how
hand
long
signal
now, or
hasn't- your hand signal doesn't come up.
no, it hasn't. I'm staring at the awful lot. Oh, there it is. See,
Oh, okay.
it's just about a minute lagged. All right, take 4. Welcome to the Napa Jordan Peterson podcast. Tonight we're gonna try to do Rule 4. The Rule 4 is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not someone else. Not who someone else is today.
Yeah, it's hard to read that one.
Yeah, it's fast too.
Yeah.
So it's a chapter about comparing yourself and making decisions about how to improve yourself and not letting comparison be your thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And social media is one of the prime thing. We see everyone on their best day with faking their vacations and everything, and can get very easily get down on yourself about where you are in life. And he's got a great line in there about happiness being hope in darkness. Like when you're having a really dark, depressed time, be able to find hope when you're going through the worst can really be a lifesaver. So I thought that was really profound.
And I guess one of the hopes that we can almost always have is we can always improve something, even if it's small, just some small thing.
Yeah, we can break something into baby steps. So that's one of the things he's doing about with like maybe his clients. Like one of them might want a new job, and so he'll talk about, well, do you have a resume prepared? Okay, do you know where your resume might be? Can you find it? He breaks it in really small steps. I mean, can you touch the resume?
Can you just say that out loud? Resume.
yeah. Even the stupidest, smallest things that really don't think helps you with the goal, but just the small steps of building the momentum compound on each other and can help you to tackle some pretty big tasks that you didn't think you'd be able to tackle that are pretty challenging.
Yeah, I'm not sure he says it explicitly, but it is surprising that sometimes action comes before motivation, strangely enough. So you actually start doing something, and then the motivation comes, and the trap, of course, is if you're waiting for the motivation to happen, you may never do it.
Yeah,
It's odd. I mean, how can you start? I mean, a motivationless action leads to motivation. So.
Yeah, and he also talked about in this chapter about our values, or when we find pleasure in things, that informs us about our values. Like we only take pleasure in things that we find valuable or have meaning. And I thought that was really interesting. So that can kind of be our defining rod to figure out who the hell we are. He also talks about how we're really like the worst employee. However, we're even a worse boss to ourselves. he talks about how we're not just master, we're also a slave,
Mm-hmm.
and we have all these different voices or perspectives in our heads, and
Mm-hmm.
all these competing values that are fighting for
Mm-hmm.
our actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a way, that, I mean, a lot of this chapter is about how to be good to ourselves, right? How to be compassionate with ourselves, really, which is kind of interesting because he's in a way he's got this tough love edge side to him, but this chapter seems to emphasize more on just being really kind to ourselves. Seems like.
So it's linked to Rule 2 a little bit, which is take care of yourself as you would someone else.
Right.
Something along those lines. I don't know the exact title,
Yeah.
but that's the kind of concept. So it's interesting. So Rule 4 probably you're right. That's an interesting link that probably plays off of that to a certain extent. So it's about how we can, and if we should, right? That was the other question. He said if we figure out how we could improve ourselves, and if we can do something, should we? So there's some thought about our goals and aims, and making sure that our actions are tied with our goals and aims, and keeping our goals and aims in mind, so we don't chaotically just do a bunch of actions and have a bunch of events that take us further from our goals.
Yeah, I'm always interested to hear your view on these things because you're so goal oriented. We talked about this, I think, when we were off camera, right? A little bit about how the stages of life and how we're at different stages of life, and you're sort of building your career, and I'm at a different stage anyway. I'm not sure what it is, but it's not that stage anyway. So because I don't really remember him talking about goals and aims that much. Maybe he did.
Well,
maybe you saw it.
I really liked his interview with Dr. Oz, where he generally goes over the 12 rules and puts another context around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's hard for me to see it without that context. The different bookends he puts on. You are where you are, and it could be the most devastating thing to you in the world that you are where you are, or you could just be lost of where you are. I mean, it could be an incredible burden to be yourself, basically, and how you can have aims, hopes, and direction to help you transform, because the past is the past; it's locked in stone. But the future could be a repeat of the past. However, it has the opportunity for it to change, and if we can give some input on how we like it to change by having some goals and some strategy to how we love ourselves, I think. I really like that self-development aspect of it. And I think it's a hard question, too. It's like we have to look at our values, figure out who we want to become, and how we're going to that. So there's a lot of questions I have about that, too, because I tend to pick out a bunch of different things randomly, it feels like. So any type of razor to help narrow it down is helpful. But yeah, I'm very much in the family building mode right now, and trying to learn as much as I can so I can help support my family, and hopefully make it a point in my life where I can be more reflective and contemplative, go in the forest, so to speak. I have a line here from the meeting. It says, do the sane have it really good? And I thought that was an interesting line I wrote down. There was some discussion about self-defense, and as far as sometimes we're blind and ignorant to things, and it's a self-defense mechanism. We're not ready to take on certain things. And so, ignorance is bliss, so to speak. So we have some comfort by not actively tackling those things. But sometimes our values and our goals force us to. And that's a tough hurdle to get over sometimes.
And the interesting thing that having an aim can allow you to see things, and it can blind you too, because there's that scientific study with the people tossing the basketball back and forth, and you're supposed to count how many times they catch it. And then right in the middle of that video, there's a gorilla that comes in and pounds his chest and walks off. And I guess he said half the people don't even notice it. I didn't notice it. I did not notice it, I think, when I first saw it. Because your aim is blinding you to what's there. And on the other hand, he was saying that your aim to be better might actually allow you to see things that previously you couldn't have seen that might help you to be better.
That you weren't looking for, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Aim's blind and they enlighten.
Yeah, and it goes back to awareness too, which we've been a topic
Mm-hmm.
we've been talking about for weeks. It feels like, so being aware of these things, but um, being focused in the wrong place. I think we just clearly made a point how that's detrimental, because if we're looking for somewhere and it's not there, we're not finding it. We're going to be tuned in and missing other things. So sometimes we have to relook at things and look at different places to explore, and we can use the different voices in our heads. And I think it's another thing he talks about in this chapter. When you have a voice in your head that keeps saying things that aren't accurate or making sense or whatever, you have to learn to stop listening to that guy, whether he's the one narrowing things down to a single dimension for and comparing you against others, or even comparing you against yourself, how you're so horrible at this. I mean, there's
you sort of turn the rational mind on itself and use the rational mind against its own messages. So like the rational mind is very hypnotic and spellbinding, so it seems to make sense. But then you realize, that was just black and white thinking, and there's a whole bunch of shades of gray in between, and so it's that the cognitive therapy's use of reason to sort of dispel the hypnosis of the rational mind itself.
breaks you out of that loop if you can learn to tune it out.
One of my favorite lines from all of his chapters is that, and I don't think it's in this chapter, it's that one where he it's like 3 sentences long about how evil the rational mind is, and that's even why people used to call it demonic, like demon. And it was like 15 adjectives about how the rational mind is just it's our worst enemy in some ways.
Yeah, in this chapter he does use the cheap trick of the rational mind.
Yeah,
He drops that line, and he uses that awfully a lot. And I think it's like it's shorter encapsulation of what you're talking about. Is the more high detailed one is probably a lot more fun. But I think it's a good summary about it, and how we can get in these loops that just lead us down. And if we're not aiming anywhere, we're free to be dragged whatever direction we want. And I'm sure some people find comfort in that chaos, but
seeming comfort, yeah. I think it's here in this chapter where he says, first stop thinking, right? Don't think, or don't think.
Maybe I don't remember that.
I'm gonna find that. Maybe just
okay.
Do first of all, and pay attention, right? It's pay attention. Don't think. Stop thinking. Pay attention.
How about we search for thinking?
And it's more like yes.
If only for thinking. Imagine that you're thinking. My boss's job.
It's stop thinking.
I in capital. The aims improvement of being.
So this is it.
You may start by not thinking, or more accurately, but less trenchantly, by refusing to subjugate your faith to your current rationality in its narrowness of views.
That's a pretty powerful statement. So by refusing to subjugate your faith to your current rationality, there's a lot of wisdom in that on so many levels. I mean, it's just how easy it is to lose faith, quote unquote, just because the mind is saying something that seems to make sense.
Well, we have these incredibly powerful rationalization engines in our head, and we can come up with a reason for anything, and only I think experience can really say, oh, that's not the cause. Literally, we've come up with so many different superstitions and different beliefs or whatever. Whether as soon as it started raining, we believe that that has to do with our dance, or it was linked to we killed the animal. There's we constantly try to create connections, and I think that's how our mind works, and it's only through the knowledge and experience that we can figure out what's true or not. But you gotta not delude yourself and be truthful with yourself to really get to the truth of it.
And I think it relates to his his primary message is always about faith in the goodness of being. I mean, that's kind of what he's, I think, trying to get across most of the time, because I think he's probably depressive himself, so he probably deals with it a lot. But the idea that there's so much apparent evidence to the contrary that being is that being can be seen as very bad, but if you really kind of look at it, though, it's still a trick of the rational mind, because certainly we can't know that it's good, but it's kind of equally true. We can't know that it's bad.
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing. Yeah.
And he talks about it was the default mode of being is suffering in a way.
Mhm.
There,
But even that we can't. I mean,
we don't have any control over it. It seems pretty random, and
yeah.
there are things that we cause our own suffering sometimes, but it's not
Mhm.
always. Not suffering is not
Right.
always caused by something, and I
Right.
think that goes back to the rational mind thing where we trick our things. Well, we're deserving of this random suffering. I deserve to get cancer. It's like no one deserves to get cancer.
Mhm.
You can trick yourself into thinking that,
Mhm.
but
Or I think I'm seeing something slightly different. So we don't know that. We don't know that nobody deserves, and we don't know that they do deserve.
gotcha.
So it's just like this way of being more aware of the limits of rationality and the seeming answers that it gives us, gives more space around it. And then in that space there's a way, it's a kind of place where you can choose faith. You can kind of still decide to go in one direction or the other, but it's a space around the hypnotic thinking that opens up a place for ability to choose faith, I think.
Yeah, and the faith is pretty much how to deal with the unknown, having a comfort with the
Mhm.
unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a much higher resolution than I was thinking. Yeah.
Or just a different point. I mean, I think what you were saying
Yeah.
made sense too.
But
I like what he quotes from the Gospel of Thomas, which is one of the Gnostic Gospels, and I find that with like the word would be kingdom probably, or the only time the kingdom. Yeah.
2 times.
No. Okay. So the next one. Yeah.
There it is, Thomas.
So the kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, but men do not see it. And I was thinking about that today, actually, when I was walking the dogs at the animal rescue place, and I was feeling sort of down and just sort of tired, and yet looking around at the Napa Valley in the setting sun, and I mean, it's just, I mean, part of me knew that I'm surrounded by it's a mind-blowing universe that I'm in, and yet I'm basically just tired and bored at the moment. So it's weird to be in that, the kingdom of the Father is spread out on the earth, and we're just surrounded by mind-blowingness, but there's so many times that we either don't see it because of fatigue, tiredness, bored, or rationality or something.
And I think that goes back to the biases our brain has, right? These cognitive limits,
Yeah.
where I think the more we experience a pattern or behavior, the more we tune it out. Because as we've experienced it once before, we can largely borrow the information from that first experience. So as we do the same task every
Right.
day or live a schedule,
Right.
it seems like time flies because there's not much to remember there because it wasn't very different than things. I mean, they obviously have small variations, but the important large brush strokes are pretty minified. So, you live in the same town or whatever. We're considering maybe leaving California now, and I always wonder. I live in possibly the area that has the best weather in the world, and I feel like I'm aware of that, but it definitely brings me pause to consider everywhere else, knowing that am I appreciating what I have here? Is it should I be paying this premium for living here? Is it really worth it? Is it giving me value? And those are all decisions and strategies I have to work out, but there is something that even if if it just wakes you up just for a second to wake yourself out of that bias and be more aware all of a sudden. It's like there's
pay attention. So you're talking about pay attention.
Yeah, you ever look at a word before and it looks like you've never seen it before in your life? It's
I remember it was like 8th grade or something like that, and I looked at the word "it," and it's like something. Yeah, I had that experience like it. Wow, what a weird word.
Yeah, it happened to me with the word McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
I was like, well, that's a Scottish word. What is that doing on Earth?
Yeah.
And it's not MC, it's a MAC, and I don't know. It just I saw it again for the first time. Like I'd never seen it before in my life. It's an interesting trick our brain pulls on us.
Yeah.
And it just makes you so much more aware. It's, you experience the sound, and sometimes you're trying to spell the word. You're like, is that really right? Did I do that right? It's just an interesting phenomenon. But it's interesting though that quirk can help you bring appreciation.
Yeah, and contentment too. I mean, it's like the eating. The difference between feeling hungry and thinking you need a lot of food. But if you kind of pay attention, you slow down, and you just actually. I remember I went to this. I forget the name of the guru, but one of his workshops 30 years ago or something like that, and we hadn't eaten all morning, and then he gave each of us a grape, and we were pretty hungry. So but he said, but we're going to eat this slowly. First, you're going to feel the roundness of it, and then you're going to smell it, and you're going to take off. And it was just this incredible experience of satisfaction that I probably wouldn't have even noticed if I gulped down a whole bunch of grapes. So paying attention can sort of, again, open up the kingdom of the Father, right? It just opens up the richness of the world and the satisfaction of the world, and also ideas too. Like the other day, I was waiting for I was going to have some ravioli, and I had some water, a little bit of oil in it, and I was just kind of waiting for it to boil, and I was kind of like just waiting. I was just waiting for it to boil, right? Instead of watching it heat up. And so I just watched it. And then I became absolutely entranced because you just watch the oil and the water just shifting around and making all these patterns. And then I also said, wow, that's like like cells, right? So maybe there's a connection to that. So all sorts of ideas started coming in and associating themselves. So I mean, paying attention is just an amazing thing.
Didn't whip out the phone and start getting online.
No.
Just really in the moment. No, that's cool. And you found it by searching. And I think some of Peter's
just paying attention, not searching.
Well, you were aware. You were hyper aware.
Yeah.
But I think you were searching on awareness. You don't think so?
It's more just starts with awareness and not searching, not aimed awareness.
Searching.
But just,
gotcha.
But then things come up, and then you can lead to aims. But
it's like being it's a tenor that's not tuned, right? You're just picking it all up and. But
I guess the first thing was noticing that I was in an empty space because of life, because I was just annoyed that I had to wait for it to boil. And yet, why does that 2 minutes have to be empty instead of just full of attention and watching this process? This incredible process.
Yeah, it's all about perspective when it comes down. I mean, and I think as far as like recent connections I've had in the meetings is about linking wisdom to attitude and how important attitude is. I mean, the ancients of the past were really wise, but they didn't necessarily have any knowledge or science or anything to base that on, right? They didn't have like computers and really fine measurement things. But what made them so incredibly wise, and I'm realizing it was their attitude. They knew how to approach the world and how to think about things and what to tune into and what not to. And I really find that a lot of what Peterson's discussing is related to your attitudes and how to approach things and how important your attitude actually is as you experience life. And it was a really good story about how these random things just kind of speak to us.
Or like sometimes waiting in line at a grocery store, same kind of thing. Is like most of the time I'm just like annoyed that I'm waiting, right? But then once in a while I'll just stop and I'm surrounded by these vertical hominoid beings, these humans. I mean, which are the most complex things in the universe, and so that switch perception is like, wow.
Yeah, having a 2-year-old, taking him to a store, completely new experience.
Right,
everything that you've known before, everything's new to him, and you get to re-experience that exploration again, and that's one of my favorite things is having him explore the world and find things, because it's really finding things again for me and re-examine them, and it's so much more interesting because you have so much more knowledge than when you first experience the store. By experience that store again through someone else's perspective, you can make so much more links and connections. It really does help.
Yeah, and I did that with the dog today, and there were times when I was kind of today for some reason I was bored, like I said, walking the dog. But then I just looked at the dog, and then I tried. He was like, sniffing and just totally into everything, and so then I kind of just tried to sort of feel through him what the wind was taking, what the wind was bringing to him, and that was a whole different experience. Yeah, it was really cool.
Cool. Well, we've had some technical difficulties tonight, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I think we're all kind of tired here, but thanks for joining us, and we will try to get together. I think it's probably be at least in a 2-week break here. I got some things to take care of, but hopefully after 2 weeks we'll try to record another episode of an Napa Jordan Peterson podcast. Thank you for joining us. See here, the wrong computer.